My sister exposed a secret affair at my wedding. It ruined everything. I had exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds left of the happiest day of my life. That's when my sister grabbed the microphone during the reception toasts, looked straight at my new husband, and said the 5 words that turned my fairy tale wedding into an absolute nightmare. Tell them about Jasmine, Michael. The room went dead silent. My bouquet hit the floor. And that's when I realized my entire marriage was built on a lie that everyone knew except me. Hey, story lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go. But let me back up, because this story doesn't start at my wedding. It starts 3 months earlier when I noticed my sister Emma acting strange. Emma had always been protective of me. Growing up, she was the one who'd confront bullies, who'd stay up late helping me with homework, who'd drive me to every soccer practice when mom couldn't. So when she started asking weird questions about Michael's schedule, I thought she was just being her usual overprotective self. "Where does Michael go on Thursday nights?" she'd ask randomly over coffee. "His basketball league, you know that," I'd laugh. "Same place he's been going for 2 years. But Emma's face would get this look, not satisfied, not convinced. Just calculating. Then came the phone calls. I'd catch her having hushed conversations that would stop the moment I walked into the room. When I asked about it, she'd wave me off with some excuse about work drama or friend problems. I was so caught up in wedding planning, the dress fittings, venue visits, cake tastings, that I didn't push harder. I should have. The week before the wedding, Emma offered to help with last-minute errands. She volunteered to pick up Michael's tux from the dry cleaner, insisted on confirming details with the florist, even offered to double-check our hotel reservations for the honeymoon. At the time, I thought she was being incredibly helpful. Now I realize she was conducting an investigation. The morning of my wedding, Emma was in my bridal suite at 6 a.m. with coffee and croissants. She seemed different. Not nervous excited like she usually got before big events. She was calm. Too calm. Like someone who'd made a difficult decision and was at peace with it. "You look beautiful," she said, watching me in the mirror as the makeup artist worked. "You deserve happiness, Jess. Real happiness. Not fake love." I laughed it off. "Thanks, Em. I'm getting real happiness. Michael loves me." She went quiet for a long moment. "Yeah, I know he does." But the way she said it, there was something underneath. Something that felt like pity. During the ceremony, I kept catching glimpses of Emma in my peripheral vision. While everyone else was watching Michael and me exchange vows, she was scanning the crowd. Her eyes would stop on certain people, Michael's best man Derek, his cousin James, even his mother, and she'd study their faces like she was reading their thoughts. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to our union, I swear I felt Emma shift behind me. For one terrifying second, I thought she might actually speak up. But she stayed silent, and I breathed a sigh of relief. If only I'd known what she was planning for later. The reception was perfect. The venue was this gorgeous historic mansion with crystal chandeliers and floor-to-ceiling windows. The band was incredible. The food was amazing. Everyone was having such a good time that I actually started to relax and forget about Emma's weird behavior. Michael and I had our first dance to At Last by Etta James. He spun me around, whispered that he loved me, told me I was the most beautiful bride he'd ever seen. I felt like I was floating. This was it. My happily ever after was finally beginning. After dinner, the toast started. Michael's best man Derek went first with a funny story about how Michael had practiced proposing to me on Derek's girlfriend for weeks. Everyone laughed. My dad gave a touching speech about watching his little girl become a woman. More tears and applause. Then Emma stood up. She was holding her champagne glass, but something about her posture immediately put me on edge. She wasn't smiling the way you smile during wedding toasts. She looked determined, like she was about to deliver bad news to a terminal patient. "I'd like to say something about my sister Jessica and her new husband Michael," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the microphone. That's when I noticed she was also holding her phone and a manila envelope. My stomach dropped. What happened next unfolded like a car crash in slow motion. Emma looked directly at Michael and said, "Tell them about Jasmine, Michael." Michael's face went white. Not embarrassed white. Not caught off guard white. Ghost white. Guilty white. "Emma, don't," he said quietly, but the microphone picked it up. "Don't what?" she said louder. "Don't tell everyone how you've been texting Jasmine Morrison every single day for 8 months? Don't tell them about the hotel room you booked last Tuesday while Jessica was getting her final dress fitting." The entire room seemed to hold its breath. I felt like I was watching this happen to someone else. This couldn't be my wedding. This couldn't be my sister. This couldn't be my husband. Or maybe, Emma continued, opening the manila envelope, "I should tell them about the pregnancy test you bought with Jasmine 3 weeks ago?" That's when I lost it. What? The word came out of me like a scream. I spun around to face Michael, my wedding dress twisting around me. What is she talking about? Michael looked like he was going to be sick. "Jess, I can explain." "Explain what?" I was shouting now. "Who the hell is Jasmine Morrison?" The worst part? I could see in his eyes that he knew exactly who Jasmine Morrison was. And it wasn't someone random. The way he said her name, the way his shoulders slumped, this wasn't a stranger. This was someone important. That's when Derek, Michael's best man, did something that shocked everyone. He stood up and said, "Jasmine Morrison is my girlfriend." The room exploded. Literally exploded. Gasps, people standing up, voices overlapping as everyone tried to process what was happening. But Derek wasn't done. "Was my girlfriend," he corrected. "Until I found out she was sleeping with my best friend." I felt like the ground was opening up beneath me. "How long?" I whispered into the microphone, because apparently I was still holding it. Michael finally found his voice. "Jess, please, let's talk about this privately." "How long?" I screamed. Emma answered for him. 8 months. Starting right after your engagement party. 8 months. While I was planning our wedding, choosing flowers, sending out invitations, he was having an affair with his best man's girlfriend. While I was saying yes to the dress, he was saying yes to hotel rooms with another woman. But it got worse. Emma wasn't finished. She pulled out her phone and held it up so everyone could see the screen. "These are text messages from Michael's phone," she announced. "I got them from Derek, who got them from Jasmine's phone before he broke up with her last week." She started reading. "Michael to Jasmine, can't wait to get through this wedding nonsense so we can be together properly." Jasmine to Michael, what if she finds out? Michael to Jasmine, she won't. Jessica's too trusting. She believes everything I tell her. Each word was like a physical blow. Too trusting. She believes everything I tell her. I was the joke. I was the fool. And everyone in that room was hearing about it. But then Emma read something that made me dizzy with rage. "Maybe we should just run away together before the wedding. I could leave a note for Jessica. It would be easier than pretending to love her for another 6 months." Pretending to love me. For 6 months. I turned to look at Michael, and for the first time since Emma had started talking, I really looked at him. His face wasn't just guilty. It was relieved. Like he was glad this was finally over. Like he'd been carrying this burden and now he could finally put it down. "You were going to leave me at the altar?" I asked. He didn't deny it. He just looked down at his shoes. That's when my mother stood up from the head table, her face red with fury. But she wasn't looking at Michael. She was looking at Emma. "Emma Catherine Walsh," she said in her most dangerous voice. "How dare you?" "How dare I what?" Emma shot back. "Save her from marrying a cheater? You had no right." "I had every right. She's my sister." That's when my dad dropped the bombshell that made everything 10 times worse. The room, which had been buzzing with shocked conversations, went silent again. "You what?" both Emma and I said at the same time. Dad stood up slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "We've known for months. Michael came to us 6 weeks ago and confessed everything. He begged us not to tell you. He said he'd broken it off with Jasmine and wanted to start fresh with you." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "You knew?" "Sweetheart," Mom said, tears in her eyes. "We thought he'd learned his lesson." "We thought." "You thought you'd let me marry him anyway?" I was beyond screaming now. I was in some weird calm rage place that felt dangerous. "You thought you'd let me commit my life to someone who cheated on me, lied to me, and planned to abandon me?" Emma's face was white with shock. I didn't know you guys knew. I thought I was protecting her." "You were," Derek said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Because he never broke it off with Jasmine. They were together Tuesday night. I have the hotel receipt." Derek pulled out his own phone and held up a photo. It was Michael and a blonde woman in what was clearly a hotel room, taken through a window from outside. The timestamp showed 3 days ago. "I hired the same private investigator Emma used," Derek said, "because I wanted proof before I confronted him. I was going to tell Jessica privately after the honeymoon." Emma stared at Derek. "You hired a private investigator too?" "Wait," I said, my head spinning. "Private investigator? What private investigator?" Emma looked embarrassed for the first time all night. I may have hired someone to follow Michael. Starting about 6 weeks ago." 6 weeks ago? I was trying to do the math. "That's right when Dad says Michael confessed to you guys." Dad nodded grimly. "We told Michael that if he was serious about changing, he needed to prove it. We said we'd give him one chance to come clean to you himself." But he never did," Emma added. "So I kept having him followed. And the investigator found out about Jasmine." "And I found out about the investigator," Derek said, "because Jasmine told me some woman had been taking pictures of her and Michael at restaurants." This was insane. My family had known. My husband had been given an ultimatum. My sister had hired a private investigator. My husband's best man had hired a different private investigator. And somehow, I was the only person at my own wedding who didn't know my marriage was a fraud. I turned to face Michael, who had been standing there like a statue this entire time. "So let me get this straight," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "You've been cheating on me for 8 months. My parents have known for 6 weeks. You promised them you'd stop. You didn't stop. You were planning to leave me before the wedding. You didn't leave me before the wedding. And now here we are, married for exactly 47 minutes, and I'm finding out that literally everyone in my life has been lying to me." Michael opened his mouth, but I held up my hand. "I'm not done. You let me plan this wedding. You let me send out invitations. You let me spend $20,000 on a party to celebrate a relationship that you knew was fake. You stood there 10 minutes ago and promised to love, honor, and cherish me, and the whole time you were thinking about another woman." He nodded. Just nodded. Didn't even try to deny it. "And you," I turned to my parents, "decided that protecting his feelings was more important than protecting mine. You decided to let me marry someone you knew was cheating on me, rather than have an uncomfortable conversation." Mom started crying. "We thought he'd changed." "Based on what? His word? The word of someone who'd already proven he's a liar." I looked around the room. 150 people staring at me. Some looking shocked, some looking pitying, some looking like they were watching the most dramatic reality TV show ever filmed. And then I did something that surprised everyone, including myself. I started laughing. You know what? I said, still laughing. I'm not going to let this ruin my party. Everyone looked confused. This isn't my wedding anymore. Michael, we're obviously getting divorced. Like, immediately. But this is still my party. I still paid for this band, and this food, and this open bar. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let your cheating ass and my family's lies waste a perfectly good celebration. I walked over to the band leader and grabbed the microphone from him. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced to the room, I'd like to make an announcement. Due to circumstances beyond my control, specifically my husband being a lying, cheating piece of garbage, this is no longer a wedding reception. It's now officially Jessica's freedom party. The bar is still open, the band is still playing, and I'm still wearing this expensive dress. So let's celebrate the fact that I found out what kind of man I married before I wasted any more years on him. The room erupted. Half the people started cheering and applauding. The other half looked scandalized. But you know what? It felt amazing. Michael tried to approach me, but Derek actually stepped between us. Dude, Derek said, I think you've done enough damage for one night. Derek, this is between me and Jessica. No, Derek cut him off. This is between you and everyone whose trust you destroyed, including mine. Jasmine was my girlfriend for 2 years, man. 2 years. That's when things got really ugly. Michael shoved Derek. Derek shoved back. And suddenly my freedom party had a brawl breaking out on the dance floor. Emma rushed over to me while hotel security was breaking up the fight. Jess, I'm so sorry, she said, tears streaming down her face. I know I did this wrong. I should have told you privately. I should have. You should have told me 8 months ago, I said. But you didn't know 8 months ago, did you? She shook her head. I only found out 6 weeks ago. After the engagement party, I started noticing things. Michael would check his phone obsessively when he was around us. He'd step outside to take calls. And then one day I saw him at a restaurant across town with a woman who definitely wasn't you. So you hired a private investigator. I needed proof. I couldn't accuse him of cheating based on seeing him have lunch with someone. But when the investigator came back with photos, hotel receipts, text messages, I realized this wasn't just lunch. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She was still in her bridesmaid dress, makeup smeared from crying, holding a manila envelope full of evidence of my husband's betrayal. Why didn't you tell me privately? Emma's face crumpled. I tried. I called you 4 times this week trying to get you alone. But every time, either Michael was there or Mom was there, or you were rushing off to handle wedding stuff. And then this morning, when I finally got you alone during hair and makeup, I chickened out. I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe the investigator was wrong. Maybe I should just let you be happy. So what changed? Derek texted me an hour ago. He said he'd confronted Jasmine last night and she'd confessed everything. She told him that Michael had promised her he was going to call off the wedding. When Derek realized Michael had lied to everyone, you, him, Jasmine, our parents, he decided to come clean. He texted me all the evidence he had. I stared at her. So you two coordinated this? Not exactly. I panicked. Derek was going to pull Michael aside privately after the ceremony, but I couldn't watch you cut the cake and have your first dance knowing what I knew. I couldn't watch you be happy for one more second when it was all fake. As Emma was explaining this, I noticed Derek approaching us. Michael was nowhere to be seen. Apparently he'd left with his parents after security broke up the fight. Jessica, Derek said, I owe you an explanation too. Everyone owes me an explanation, I said. Get in line. Derek looked genuinely remorseful. I found out about Michael and Jasmine 3 weeks ago. I confronted her, and she broke down and told me everything. Not just about the affair, but about Michael's plans. His plans. He was going to go through with the wedding because he didn't want to deal with the social embarrassment of calling it off. He figured he could divorce you quietly in a year or two and make it seem like you just grew apart. I felt like I was going to throw up. He was planning our divorce at our wedding? There's more, Derek said reluctantly. Jasmine. She thought she was pregnant. That's why Michael bought the pregnancy test Emma mentioned. They were making plans for if she was. Was she? No. False alarm. But for 2 weeks, Michael was planning to leave you for her if she was having his baby. I sat down heavily in the nearest chair. My dress pulled around me like a white silk ocean. So let me make sure I understand this. My husband married me as a backup plan. My parents knew he was cheating and decided not to tell me. My sister hired a private investigator, but waited until our wedding reception to expose everything. And his best man also hired a private investigator, but was planning to wait until after our honeymoon to tell me. Derek and Emma exchanged glances. That's pretty much it, Emma said quietly. Oh, but wait, I continued, there's more. The other woman thought she was pregnant with his baby. He was ready to leave me for her, and the only reason I'm finding out about any of this is because she wasn't actually pregnant. Jessica, Derek started. No, I held up my hand. I'm not done processing this. So if Jasmine had been pregnant, Michael would have left me at the altar. Derek hesitated. Probably not at the altar. But soon after, yeah. I started laughing again. Not happy laughing. Hysterical laughing. I'm the consolation prize, I said. I'm what he settled for when his first choice didn't work out. That's when my parents finally approached. Dad looked ashamed. Mom looked defensive. Jessica, we need to talk, Dad said. Oh, now we need to talk? Not 6 weeks ago when you found out my fiancé was cheating on me. We thought we were doing the right thing, Mom said. Michael seemed genuinely sorry. He said he'd made a terrible mistake and wanted to make it right. By lying to me for 6 more weeks? By proving he could change, Dad said. We told him he had to cut off all contact with this Jasmine person and commit fully to you, or we'd tell you everything ourselves. And you believed him? Mom and Dad exchanged looks. We wanted to believe him, Mom admitted. You were so happy. The wedding was already planned. We thought maybe. You thought maybe you could trick me into marrying someone you knew was unfaithful and it would somehow work out fine? We thought he'd learned his lesson, Dad said weakly. Well, he didn't, I said. Because according to Derek, he was with Jasmine 3 days ago. Dad's face fell. He was. Did you even bother to verify that he'd changed? Did you ask for proof? Did you check up on him at all? The silence told me everything I needed to know. So you just took the word of a proven liar and decided that was good enough to risk my entire future on. Mom started crying harder. We're so sorry, sweetheart. We thought. You didn't think I cut her off. You took the easy way out. You decided it was easier to hope everything would magically work out than to have a difficult conversation with me. The sisters' full story. I turned back to Emma. Tell me about this private investigator. Emma pulled out a folder from somewhere in her dress. His name is Brian Brown. I hired him 6 weeks ago, right after I saw Michael with Jasmine at that restaurant. What restaurant? Chez Laurent. Downtown. You know, the expensive French place where Michael took you for your birthday last year? The irony was not lost on me. He took his side piece to our special place. That's what made me suspicious, Emma said. I was having lunch with my friend Rachel nearby, and I saw them through the window. They weren't just having a business lunch or a friendly catch-up. She was holding his hand. He was playing with her hair. And when they left, he kissed her goodbye. Not a friendly kiss. So you hired a private investigator that day? The next day. I spent all night trying to figure out what to do. I thought about confronting Michael directly, but I knew he'd just deny it. I thought about telling you, but I knew you'd demand proof. So I decided to get proof. Emma opened the folder and started pulling out photographs, hotel key cards, credit card statements, phone records. Brian is very thorough, she said. These photos are from the past 6 weeks. Different hotels, different restaurants, even Jasmine's apartment. I looked at the photos and felt nauseous. There was my husband, my brand new husband, holding hands with a petite blonde woman across restaurant tables, kissing her in parking lots, carrying overnight bags into hotel lobbies. This one is from Tuesday, Emma said, pointing to a photo of Michael and Jasmine entering the Grand Hotel downtown. The same day you had your final dress fitting. He told me he was working late, I said numbly. The hotel checkout was 11 p.m. Brian has the records. I kept staring at the photos. In some of them, Michael looked happier than I'd seen him in months. More relaxed. More in love. She's prettier than me, I said quietly. No, she's not, Emma said firmly. She's different than you. But Jess, that's not the point. The point is that you deserve someone who thinks you're the most beautiful woman in the world. And Michael clearly doesn't. Wait, I said suddenly. Derek, how long have you been dating Jasmine? 2 years, he said. We were talking about getting engaged. And when did you find out about Michael? Last week. I found messages on her phone by accident. I wasn't snooping. She asked me to check something while she was driving, and the messages from Michael popped up. What did the messages say? Derek looked uncomfortable. Do you really want to know? Derek, I just found out my entire life is a lie. Yes, I want to know. He pulled out his own phone and scrolled through screenshots. The most recent one was from Monday. Michael wrote, 2 more days and then we can stop pretending. I'll tell Jessica I want a divorce after we get back from the honeymoon. We can be together openly. My legs felt weak. He was planning to divorce me on our honeymoon? It looks like it. Jasmine wrote back, I can't wait. I'm tired of hiding. I love you. Those 3 words, I love you, hit me harder than anything else. It wasn't just intimacy. It wasn't just an affair. He loved her. He was in love with her. And he'd married me anyway. But then Derek said something that changed everything again. There's something else, he said. Something I just figured out tonight. What now? I asked, because honestly, how much worse could this get? Jasmine Morrison isn't just some random woman Michael met. She works at your company, Jessica. I stared at him. What? She's in accounting. Different floor, different department. But she's worked at Morrison and Associates for 3 years. Morrison and Associates. The marketing firm where I'd been working for 4 years. Where I'd gotten Michael a consulting contract 2 years ago. Are you telling me, I said slowly, that Michael met his affair partner at my job? Through me? Derek nodded. Jasmine told me she met him at the company Christmas party 2 years ago. You introduced them. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to set my wedding dress on fire. I had introduced my husband to the woman he cheated on me with. At my company Christmas party. I'd probably stood there smiling while they shook hands and started whatever flirtation led to this nightmare. Do other people at my job know? I asked. Derek looked uncomfortable again. Jasmine said, some people have suspected. They've seen them having lunch together. Coffee breaks. You know how office gossip works. So not only was I the laughingstock of my own wedding, I was probably the laughingstock of my own office. People had been watching my husband cheat on me with my coworker and just not telling me. I stood up and walked to the center of the reception hall. Everyone was still there. Apparently, drama is better entertainment than an open bar. I grabbed the microphone again. I need everyone to listen carefully, I announced. Because I'm about to make some decisions and I want witnesses. The room went quiet. Michael, wherever you ran off to, I hope you can hear this. I want a divorce. Not next week, not after we work on things, not after counseling. I want you to file papers tomorrow morning. I don't want your explanations or your apologies or your promises to change. I want you out of my life completely. I took a breath and continued. Mom and Dad, I love you, but what you did was unforgivable. You chose to protect my cheating husband instead of protecting your own daughter. I need some time to figure out if I can trust you again. Mom sobbed, but I wasn't done. Emma, what you did tonight was brutal and public and humiliating. It was also the only honest thing anyone has done for me in months. Thank you for caring more about my future than about keeping the peace. Emma started crying too. Derek, I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Thank you for bringing the truth, even though it was painful. Then I looked around at all our guests. Everyone else, I'm sorry you had to witness this. But since you're here, and since we've already ordered the food and hired the band, let's at least get some good music out of this disaster. And that's exactly what we did. After I changed out of my wedding dress and into a cocktail dress I'd packed for the after party, the night turned into something completely unexpected. The band started playing upbeat music. People began dancing. The bartenders kept serving drinks. And slowly, the shocked, uncomfortable energy transformed into something else entirely. Derek turned out to be a surprisingly good dancer. Emma and I spent an hour on the dance floor, laughing and crying and processing everything that had happened. Some of Michael's family left, obviously, but most of our friends and my extended family stayed. Around midnight, something amazing happened. Derek's cousin James, who I'd barely spoken to before, approached me at the bar. I just wanted to say, he said, that what you did tonight was incredible. What do you mean? You found out your entire life was a lie in front of 150 people, and instead of falling apart, you turned it into a celebration. That takes serious strength. I looked around the room. People were laughing, dancing, having genuine fun. The tragedy had somehow transformed into something that felt empowering. You know what? I said to James. You're right. This is better than my wedding would have been. How do you figure? Because now I know who I can trust. Now I know who really has my back. And now I know I don't need a man to make me happy. I just need good people around me. The next morning, I woke up in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house. For a moment, I forgot what had happened and felt confused about why I wasn't in a hotel room with my new husband, heading off on our honeymoon to Italy. Then it all came flooding back. Emma knocked on my door around 10 a.m. with coffee and bagels. How are you feeling? She asked carefully. Like I got hit by a truck, I said honestly. But also, weirdly relieved. Relieved? I keep thinking about little things that didn't add up. How Michael would sometimes seem distracted during our conversations. How he'd gotten weird about me using his phone or laptop. How he'd started working late more often. How he seemed less interested in planning our future together. I sat up in bed and looked at Emma. I think part of me knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to admit it. Emma sat down on the edge of my bed. I'm still sorry about how I handled it. I should have found a way to tell you privately. Maybe, I said. But honestly, if you'd told me privately, I probably would have confronted Michael, and he would have denied everything or convinced me it was over. I might have married him anyway. Do you think you would have? I considered this. Yeah, probably. I was so invested in the wedding, in the idea of us, in the life we'd planned. I would have talked myself into believing him. So you're not mad at me? I was quiet for a moment. I'm mad at the situation. I'm mad at Michael. I'm mad at Mom and Dad. I'm grateful to you. And I'm mad about that too, because being grateful that your sister ruined your wedding is a really weird feeling. Emma laughed despite her tears. I can imagine. Over the next few days, as the reality of my situation sank in, I started getting angry. Really angry. The kind of angry that makes you want to do something dramatic and possibly stupid. That's when Derek called with an unexpected proposition. "I've been thinking," he said. "Michael and Jasmine destroyed both of our relationships. They humiliated both of us. Maybe we should return the favor." "What do you mean?" "I mean, they're probably together right now, thinking they got away with something. Thinking they're free to be happy while we deal with the wreckage they left behind." I was intrigued. "What are you suggesting?" "Jasmine still works at your company, right? And Michael's still got that consulting contract there." "Yeah, so what if their coworkers knew exactly what kind of people they were dealing with?" Derek's plan was simple but effective. He'd compiled all the evidence: photos, text messages, hotel receipts, everything. We'd present it to HR at Morrison and Associates, not to get them fired necessarily, but to make sure their workplace affair became common knowledge. "Company policy prohibits relationships between contractors and employees," Derek pointed out. "Michael could lose his contract. And even if Jasmine doesn't get fired, everyone will know what she did." It felt petty. It felt vindictive. It felt perfect. The Monday after my non-wedding, I walked into Morrison and Associates carrying a folder that was about to change everything. I'd called ahead and scheduled a meeting with HR Director Patricia Williams, ostensibly to discuss some personal matters affecting my work environment. Patricia was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who'd been with the company for 15 years. She knew me well. I'd been a reliable employee with good performance reviews and no drama. "Jessica," she said as I sat down in her office, "I heard about what happened at your wedding. I'm so sorry." "Thank you," I said. "That's actually what I need to discuss with you." I opened the folder and spread the evidence across her desk. Photos of Michael and Jasmine together. Printouts of their text messages. Hotel receipts. Everything. Patricia's eyes widened as she looked through the materials. "This is extensive," she said. "It gets worse," I said. "The affair started at our company Christmas party 2 years ago. It's been happening on company time, during company events, and between a contractor and an employee." Patricia picked up one of the text messages and read it aloud. "Can't wait to see you at the office retreat next month. Maybe we can sneak away for an hour." This is from Michael to Jasmine, dated 6 months ago. "They've been using company events as cover for their relationship," I confirmed. "The office retreat, the quarterly meetings, even the casual Friday happy hours." Patricia was quiet for a long moment, reviewing the evidence. "Jessica, this puts the company in a very difficult position. We have clear policies about relationships between contractors and employees, especially when they're not disclosed." "I'm not asking you to fire anyone," I said. "I just thought you should know what's been happening under your nose." But Patricia was already reaching for her phone. "I'm going to need to speak with Jasmine immediately. And we'll be terminating Michael's contract effective today." Within 2 hours, the entire office knew what had happened. Jasmine was called into HR, Michael's access was revoked, and somehow word spread through the building like wildfire. I wasn't trying to cause drama at work, but I'd underestimated how quickly office gossip travels. By lunch, people were approaching me with sympathy, curiosity, and, surprisingly, respect. Sarah from marketing stopped by my desk to say she'd always suspected something was off about Michael's frequent business lunches with Jasmine. Tom from IT mentioned he'd noticed them leaving together after hours more than once. By the end of the week, Michael's consulting contract was officially terminated, and Jasmine had requested a transfer to a different department. The whispers followed them both, but honestly, I felt lighter than I had in months. Derek and I met for coffee that Friday to debrief our successful mission of petty justice. "Feel better?" he asked, stirring his latte. "You know what? I actually do," I said. For 8 months, I was the only person who didn't know what was happening in my own relationship. Now everyone knows exactly who they are. "Any regrets about the public humiliation approach?" I thought about it. None. They made their choices publicly, at my wedding, at our workplace, in front of our friends. They don't get to suffer their consequences privately. 6 months later, I ran into Jasmine at a coffee shop across town. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, but I surprised both of us by feeling nothing. No anger, no hurt, just indifference. "Jessica," she said quietly, "I owe you an apology." "No, you don't," I replied. "You actually did me a favor. Michael and I were wrong for each other, and now I know it. I hope you two are happy." She looked shocked by my response, but it was true. The pain had faded, leaving behind something unexpected: gratitude. Not for the betrayal itself, but for the clarity it brought. Emma and I grew closer than ever. My parents and I worked through our issues in family therapy. It took months, but we rebuilt our trust. Derek became one of my closest friends and eventually introduced me to his cousin James, who turned out to be everything Michael never was: honest, loyal, and completely transparent about his feelings. As for my wedding dress, I donated it to a nonprofit that provides gowns for brides who can't afford them. Someone else got their fairy tale ending in my dress, and that felt like the perfect way to close that chapter. The best part? I kept the marriage certificate, not for sentimental reasons, but as a reminder. A reminder that I'm strong enough to survive having my entire life explode in public. A reminder that the people who truly love you will fight for your happiness, even when it's messy and painful. And most importantly, a reminder that sometimes the worst day of your life is actually the first day of something much better.